Welcome to another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I am the founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. The first offering of the platform is a public speaking course called Teach the Geek to Speak. To learn more about it, you can go to teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Dr. Justin Goldston. He is a professor of supply chain management. He's also organized TED conferences and spoken at them. He's also the author of the book Critical Success Factors in Enterprise Resource Planning Implementation in U.S. Manufacturing. Quite the mouthful. I'm curious to learn more about his path to professorship, his interest in TED, and his book. Welcome to Teach the Geek interviews, Dr. Goldston.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me.
So I didn't even know this was a major that you could do, but you got your bachelor's in supply chain management. Where did
Yeah.
that interest come from?
So my story is kind of a different one in that I was actually a computer science major, and I went to North Carolina A&T on the baseball scholarship, and because we had mandatory computer labs on Wednesdays, we also traveled for baseball on Wednesdays. So I went to the department chair and said, I traveled during these mandatory computer labs, and he said, well, you have to choose baseball or you have to choose computer science. And because baseball was paying my way to North Carolina A&T, I left the computer science program. But one of my teammates said that as a broke college student, one of my teammates said that we can get scholarship money on top of our baseball scholarship if we go in this new supply chain program in the School of Business. So I said, more money, let's go. So I actually enrolled, and once I was going into the course, into the primary courses, um, my father was a plant manager, and I said, I get this stuff. This stuff is easy. So from there the rest was history, and then I went on to get my master's in supply chain management and work with a number of organizations within the distribution, supply chain, and manufacturing industry.
Wow. So this all supply chain management only happened because of a computer lab that you couldn't go to for computers. Wow, that's life is crazy sometimes, man.
Life is crazy sometimes. That is for sure. And my doctoral degree is kind of a similar story in that I was guest lecturing at Penn State and at Rutgers, and I would ask students, what are you going to do with this degree? Penn State, a lot of answers. Rutgers, a lot of answers. But it wasn't until I went to Morgan State, which was HBCU, just like North Carolina A&T. These students were in a graduate program 2 weeks away from graduating. Asked them the same question, not a single answer. So from that point on, I said that I have to make a difference. I have to make a change. I feel that these students at this HBCU are underrepresented. No offense to anyone listening, from that institution, but I think that one thing that I found is that when students see themselves in the front of the room, they become more empowered, and they believe that it's possible. I just had another individual. She actually did her undergrad at Penn State. Penn State has, I think, they have thousands of professors. I get on the phone with her. She said, "You're the first black professor I see at Penn State." She was here for 4 years. To me, that's a problem, and I'm in higher education trying to fix that problem. But I mean, it's not just gonna take me. It's gonna take everyone. So
Wow. You know what? Now I think about it, I never had a black professor at all. So I had a
really,
TA. I had a TA. That's it.
really,
Yeah, just one TA.
I mean, I went to North Carolina A&T. North Carolina A&T had quite a few so I was at North Carolina A&T from 2002 to 2006. We had quite a few.
Wow. You know, when you mentioned that at the schools that you've taught at, and the students knowing what they wanted to do when they graduated, and at Morgan State they didn't. Do you think that discrepancy might have to do with these other students, I guess, having more experience with the college experience, just because maybe their parents went, or their grandparents went, as opposed to where at Morgan State maybe they're first time college graduates and they're kind of trying to figure things out as they go?
I think you have something there. I've never looked at it that way, because yes, you get, and that's another thing. That's another reason why I think the higher education system is broken, where we don't have mentors. We have teachers. We, just like you have teachers in high school, you have teachers in higher education. A professor should be a mentor. A professor should guide, and the students don't have to wait for an advisor to get guidance on how to apply for classes or what to expect in the business world. You have signed up to serve as a professor at a university, so you should be able to guide those students into a path based on, because you know those students probably better than anyone. You spend what, 4 months with them, so you know the students better than anyone. So you should be able to assist them and guide them in the path. And it goes outside of the theory in a book, So, and that's my teaching style. And I've had a lot of students to say, I've never had anybody teach like you. I say that's why I stay close to the industry. The leaders of the organizations that you want to work for, they're telling me what they look for when they hire people. The knowledge in supply chain, the knowledge in business is a dime a dozen. The differentiator is are the how you communicate that knowledge to your peers. And that's almost all I talk about in my classes. Yes, I talk about we talk about what's in the chapter for 3/4 of the class, but that last bit of class, we're collaborating, and the students know that they better come prepared because they know I'm going to call on them, every single one of
Wow.
them.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're certainly. I think you're. I don't think the majority of professors really take that tact, especially if they're teaching at one of those big research focused universities. They're there for their research, and they're not. The teaching is kind of the
Yeah.
thing that they have to do as part of their job. It's not something that they really look forward to. It's bringing in research dollars to their labs and innovating different. I mean, in engineering, especially innovating new things, getting patents, that type of thing. So
Yeah.
I kudos to professors like you that actually care about the students.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and again, that's one thing. That's one thing I'm trying to teach in with, because I would say, well, one amazing thing about Penn State is, we collaborate. All the professors collaborate at least every other month to say, what's going well, what's not going. Especially now. I mean, now we're since last semester, spring semester and fall semester, we're collaborating every month. To see what's going on in this COVID era. Things that are going well, things that are going not so well. I think that the thing that we've had success in is having students go into LinkedIn Learning. So I make students go into LinkedIn Learning. I create assignments to make them go into LinkedIn Learning, and not only are they getting that real life experience, within those courses, but now I'm forcing them to create their LinkedIn profiles. So to start building up that personal brand, right, and starting to say, okay, what industry do you want to work in? Who are the leaders in that industry? Who are the thought leaders in that industry? Follow them and see what they're doing.
Wow. Yeah.
And now they get insight into that industry.
Wow. Yeah, I never got had a professor to do that. Well, LinkedIn didn't exist when I was in
Right.
school, but I'm sure even if it did, no professor didn't give a damn about that. Telling me to put together a LinkedIn profile. So again, I commend you for taking that interest in your students and really being, I guess, invested in their success after they graduate. Because you're right. I mean, especially if you got a graduate degree, that means you stayed in school longer than you really had to. So that's there's an opportunity cost there.
Yeah.
That means you're not out there making money at a job. So if you're going to stay in school longer, you have even more reason to you have to what's the word how do I want to say this, you really should be more intentional about why you even got that degree and
Absolutely.
what you want to do with it.
That's what I tell students, and especially doctoral students. I advise. I say why. I say why are you first off, I say, okay, is your university funding it? Okay, so now you're married to that institution. If your institution is not funding it, why are you spending $100,000? I said, because at the end of the day, these advisors, these recruiters can tell you what you want to. You're in for about $100,000 when it's all said and done. Why? And then if they can't tell me, I said, maybe this is not, maybe that's not for you. I said, you just getting a PhD is not going to, yes, it's going to change your life. Yes, you're going to impact individuals. But if it doesn't make financial sense, then now you're spending the rest of your life in debt trying to pay off this PhD. And
It's
I
funny,
and
man.
and,
It's
and when
funny.
people, hey, I tell it like it is. I'm very transparent.
Yeah.
And when people ask me, was it worth it for you? I say absolutely, because I got my ROI in about 4 months. I said,
Okay.
because I hustled. And say, yes, you have to hustle.
Yeah.
When I got in higher education is worse than the industry. and that was a surprise to me.
Wow. So was that always your plan, Dr. Goldston, to go into academia once you got a PhD?
When I got my PhD, like I said, Morgan State began that path, and I was going to still be in management consulting, and then just adjunct on the side, right? Just because I like to teach. But the more students I was impacting as I was adjuncting in my PhD, I said that I think this is my calling, right? This is what I want to do when I grow up. So it took me 32 years to figure out what I wanted to do when I grow up. So, but I mean, this is it, and I'm loving every minute of it. And like I said, I mean, you're impacting lives every day. I'm working with I'm working with researchers. I read their books in undergrad. I'm working with people in the industry that in LinkedIn at the bottom they say, "Oh, you have interest in this person." I'm speaking with those people and collaborating with them in our organizations. So whenever people say, okay, what opportunities does a PhD, yes you might, yes you're I'll tell you, you're going to make more money in the industry, but you're going to be impacting more lives. You're going to reach more goals. I'm only a year within academia, and I have done so many things I have not even imagined that I could do. You know, whenever one person asks me, you got those stretch goals,
Hmm.
and someone's asked me, you've done all these TED talks, you're speaking at all these conferences, what's the end game? I say, I want to be a top supply chain professional in the world. That was probably 8 months ago. Fast forward, Thinkers 360 just identified me as a top sustainability thought leader in the world, the top corporate social responsibility thought leader in the world. I think I'm third in supply chain, so I'm getting there, right? I didn't even think that could happen, but
Wow.
you just have to put the work in. And I would say that 1,000% I'm blessed, and I do not. And I was also say I don't give up any opportunities. I don't turn down any opportunities because I want to get that experience. Because with every opportunity, I learn something new. Right
Hmm.
now, is that going to be sustainable? No, it's not. But there's going to be a point where, okay, now I can spend more time with my family. Now I can go wherever I want to go. But right now, I am serving, and in this current time, I mean, I'm sitting at home, I'm not doing anything, so why not? So
Yeah.
that's another reason.
For
Why
sure.
not?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if this applies to the school that you teach out of, but I know at least in science and engineering, when you're a professor, at least tenure track, it's really about publishing, publishing publications. That's what you're kind of measured for in terms of just moving up and getting tenure. Is that the same in the school that you're in? And if so, these other aspects of working in the school that you're a part of, and doing all these work with the students, does that, I don't want to say interfere, but I can't think of a better word right now, does that interfere with your aspirations of moving up within the department?
So we have two tracks. We have a teaching track and a research track. And funny story. So whenever I graduated, whenever I got my master's from in supply chain from Penn State, I asked the department chair, I'm thinking about doing the PhD, and he knew my background. He's like, you have too much practical experience to do a PhD here. He said, we're research focused. He said, you have that practical experience. He said, I don't think he's like you it's like you'll get in no problem. He said, but I don't think you would like it. He said, you have too much practical experience. So that's whenever I kind of went into, I was going to do a DBA, but I still kind of wanted to have that PhD. I know you're going to get different perspectives on that as well. But so I'm actually on a teaching track, and I spoke with a number of individuals, where I spoke with a lot of tenure track individuals, and they could not give me a definitive answer of the positives to tenure track. So I want the freedom. I want to publish for the fun of it, and that's why chose the track that I chose.
Got it. All right. I didn't realize that there was that option. So yeah, it certainly makes makes sense to go down that path. So, I mentioned in the intro that you also wrote a book. What was the motivation for writing the book?
So my dissertation was focused around critical success factors, and given that I seen a lot of people having their dissertation just sit on the shelf. I would say the second year of my doctoral program, when I was just in the coursework, I said I'm gonna turn my dissertation into a book. So I went into my dissertation with that mindset, with that understanding that this is going to be turned into a book. So I know that that's something that I always wanted to do. I always wanted to publish a book, and even just changing the tone of scholarly writing for a dissertation versus a commercial book. That was even painful. That was as painful as writing the dissertation itself. So I went through that, and that was good. That was a great experience. And I'm currently writing another book entitled AI for Good. So we're going to talk about how we can leverage artificial intelligence to address the sustainable development goals. And I was interviewing a number of individuals in artificial intelligence in the field of artificial intelligence, and I was saying, we're going to propose that we create an AI marketplace, where individuals can leverage AI to address SDGs. And I've had a number of those interviewees say, Justin, you're like proposing this. Why don't you just do it? So I'm doing it. And we're so I just finished writing a proposal for to perform some research in Puerto Rico, and the proposal is entitled "Addressing Environmental Injustice in Puerto Rico During the Energy Crisis." So we're going to leverage artificial intelligence because there's some people in Puerto Rico that are still without power since 2017 after the hurricanes. And the United States promised billions of dollars, and the people of the island still haven't seen it. There has been individuals within the government that have pled guilty on corruption, on issuing contracts to individuals to repair the energy grid, and they haven't done so. So I call that environmental injustice, and I'm looking to, like I said, show artificial intelligence to make this transparent and say yes, there I love the new administration that's coming in, but say, hey, here it is. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Because there have been so many false promises to that island. And I've been speaking with another individuals in the area of AI. I've been speaking with individuals from some of the biggest companies, Google, Facebook, that work in the AI departments there, and mostly minorities. And they say, Justin, they say they don't trust us. They say you're gonna have yes. They say even you as an African American will have a problem gaining their trust. He said so. They say so. Step number one is you have to get an influencer down there to essentially lead that charge and influence the people to get their trust back because they don't trust right now.
Wow, that's
You know,
unfortunate. Yeah, I've heard
that's
about that
that's what
stuff.
that's the entire country.
Uh,
That's the entire country. That's the entire world.
wow, that's no, I didn't realize that. I know, I was figured maybe that issue was because they're a territory and not a state. I figured if they were a state, they would have gotten that more aid more quickly. You don't think so? I had nothing to do with it.
Absolutely not.
Okay,
Absolutely not.
got it. Wow, that's crazy. So I've talked to a number of people on this YouTube channel that have given TED Talks. I've never spoken to anyone that's actually organized them. So, what was your motivation to actually organize a TED event?
So given that I did a number of TED events, and I did not see many minorities, especially African Americans, performing TED Talks. There are some, but there aren't many. So my mindset was, given that I had some connections at TED conferences in New York during my TED Talks, you know, I said, if I don't, who will? And I applied for the application. It got approved in like a couple weeks, and I began my quest. I began my quest to my mindset was, okay, whenever these kids in middle school and high school go to this TEDx event and they see the first African American student body president at MIT, the first African American student body president from Yale, African American from Columbia, another African American from Columbia, they say, "Wow! Not only can I go to an Ivy, I can be the student body president of an Ivy League, right?" And that's powerful. That's powerful. And I would say that when I look back whenever I was growing up, if somebody said Harvard, if somebody said Harvard, I say they got a basketball team. They play UNC. I don't. I did, that's that was my mindset whenever I was younger, right? But if we can show that we are the student body president at one of the most powerful schools in the world, we make it possible, right? And that's like I said, that's one of the most important things I'm trying to do. We have a vice president from Africa. Well, now she can hopefully come. We were gonna do it virtually, but hopefully she can come because we actually have to move it to the fall because of COVID, because Penn State's not allowing large gatherings in the spring, so it's supposed to be in March. We're going to move it to the fall, so hopefully we can have her from Africa come in. We have individuals from Mexico coming in. I have a number of diverse individuals that are going to be within that event, because I would say the most important thing to keep I would say the most important thing I say in our interview today is you have to walk the talk. So if I want to talk about diversity and inclusion, if I want to talk about sustainability, I have to prove it. I have to demonstrate it. And when I talk about diversity and inclusion, it's all over that TED event that I'm organizing, right? And that's what I do, and that's what I tell my students all the time. I say, if you don't believe me, I said, just look at my work. Right? You can't BS that one.
Yeah,
Just look at the work.
no question. You
So
know what? I appreciate people like you, Dr. Goldston, who are about the work as opposed to telling other people to do the work. Because you got a lot of people out there like that. So again, I commend you for all that you're doing. When it comes to speaking, is that something you've always been good at, or did you have to get better at it? And if you had to get better at it, what'd you do to get better at it?
I was horrible. I was horrible. I would say, I used to do webinars for an organization before these TED Talks. And like now that I look back on them after those events, I was like, man, those things were terrible. So I really had no choice but to get good on in speaking engagements, because I'm not going to have a horrible TEDx presentation that's going to be potentially available to millions of people, right? So I just had to practice, 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 practice. And the way that those TEDx events are structured, like you have like 3 or 4 months to prepare for them, and you're issued a TED coach, and you're working with that coach throughout the entire process, and you're continually practicing. I delivered TED. I did five TEDx events in 2019. I would say one of the best. I would say one of the best coaches that I had was the students from our Rochester Institute of Technology, because they drilled me. Right? Like they were tougher on me than some of the adults that have been doing this for 10 years, right? But I mean, but that maybe fortunately that was my first event, so that kind of made me better, and I kind of perfected as I went along. But another thing I would say from my lessons learned would be to you can never prepare enough. So I did one event. I'm not going to say which one it was because I don't want you looking at it, but but it was my third event, and I didn't practice that much because I already did two before that. I got it, but there was one guy in the audience that he just completely threw me off. He was like in his 60s or so, and I was talking about blockchain, and he was like a deer in the headlights. Like he wasn't blinking, and he just threw me off the entire presentation. And that's one thing that one of my coaches told me, like, never look at the audience, look it over their head, and those little speaking tips and things like that. But like, he was just staring, so I couldn't help but look at him. I stopped scanning the room and everything.
Oh, wow.
Man, he threw me off. But so I had that event that was absolutely terrible, and then I had to drive to the air. I had to drive 2.5 hours to an airport, and then go to another TEDx event the next day. This event was 8 o'clock at night, so I had a 6 o'clock flight in the morning to go to an event in the Northeast that started like 2 o'clock or something. So any delay in my flight, I wouldn't make it. I wasn't making it.
Wow.
So I made it as soon as I walked into the venue. They were announcing the first speaker. You know, so yeah, I made it by a good probably about an hour. But see, but the thing is, that one was phenomenal. That was the best one.
Yeah,
I was
sometimes you just rise to the occasion. Sometimes I don't know.
it was crazy. It was crazy. But another thing is, speaking is all about the audience, because that audience gave me the energy, right? As compared to the other audience, where again, the individual that had a deer in the headlights completely threw me off. So
Yeah, yeah, no question. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I try not to do that too. That actually throws me off too when looking in people's eyes. So I don't. Yeah, just like your coach said, look over the don't look at their eyes, look at their eyebrows, look over their head. Just don't look directly at people, because you can get thrown off for sure. And I really like your point about the presentation being about the audience. You're absolutely right about that too. When it comes to speaking, do you ever get nervous beforehand? And if you do, how do you deal with your nerves?
I would say, sorry about the background noise, but I would say that the biggest thing is, I listen to music. I listen to all kinds of music. Um, I say that I would practice up until the point that I walk onto the stage. I rehearse. I keep reviewing my presentation up until the point that I walk onto the stage, and I would say every single speech to those TED events, I changed my opening. I changed my opening every single time, right? So that's kind of like one little weird thing I do. It kind of calms me down, because I don't even know what I'm going to say when I walk out there. So that's one thing that I do. May not be for everyone, but that's what I do.
Wow, that's crazy. You know what? This has been really interesting learning about your journey and your tips on public speaking, Dr. Goldston. I really appreciate you being here. How can people get in touch with you?
I would say the easiest way to reach out to me. I have some construction going on. The biggest way to reach out to me is going to be on LinkedIn. Also, you can reach out to me at jlg566@psu.edu.
Excellent. Well, everybody, that marks the end of another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson, founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. The first offering of the platform is Teach the Geek to Speak. It's a public speaking course. You can learn more about it at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. I also have an excuse assessment tool. It can help you in prioritizing solutions to those excuses that you have. You can learn about that at download.teachthegeek.com. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Thanks, Dr. Goldston.
Thank you.